Ladies and gentlemen, my name is SidAlpha, and I'm coming to you tonight to talk about something that has been blowing up all over the place in the PC gaming community, and that is Batman Arkham Knight, a game released by Rocksteady Games just a couple of days ago, and has since been flooded with reports of game bugs, crashes, and all sorts of nonsense. They've also been likening this recently to be probably the worst game release since Assassin's Creed Unity and possibly the worst PC port ever. Now, I did purchase this game, and on my 50 megabit full duplex internet connection on release day, it still took me over 1 day to download the game itself. So my personal impressions on this game were slightly delayed, as it seems that everyone and their cousin was purchasing this game and downloading it from Steam, and my average download rate was only about 100 to 250 kilobytes a second. So I apologize for my delay on that, but moving on. So as I said, this game has been reporting all kinds of bugs, crashes, massive frame rate drops, and people even getting sub 10 FPS on the game, and even having it lock up completely and completely crashing out as well. So I decided to spend my afternoon today checking the game out so I would be able to better understand people's frustrations with this, and I would be more capable of relaying those to you. Now, bear in mind, my rig is quite a bit more powerful than your average PC. It really is. Just to give you a slight insight onto the specs of my PC, I am running an i7 5930K processor, 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, a Samsung 850 EVO Pro 500 gigabyte SSD is my primary drive, and my video card is an NVIDIA 970 Ti. So for all intents and purposes, I know that my video card isn't necessarily the most powerful one out there, but it is quite a bit up there, and overall my system performance would chew apart a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox One and spit out the pieces with no problem whatsoever. So, those are the credentials of my rig, so please take that into consideration when you're seeing the gameplay footage in front of you, and please remember that what I'm seeing here and what you're seeing on your screen is very much not indicative of the average user experience. So let's go into a little bit more of the most common issues that I have seen. I have seen pretty significant frame rate drops. On my machine, it hasn't been too bad, but like I said, a great many people have been reporting sub 10 FPS, especially when using the Batmobile. Another few things that have been noticed with this game is SLI actually somehow manages to decrease performance. Yes, that's right. Trying to use two video cards in conjunction with each other lowers your performance. That's interesting, right? Some of the other things that are basic cardinal sins. There is no Anisotropic Filter available in this game. There are some detail options that are completely missing from the PC release, but are very much firmly present on the PS4 and Xbox One. And also, the PC release was locked at 30 frames per second. Yes, they decided that no PC was capable of running this game stably above 30 FPS. So they decided to lock it, and if you want to go higher than 30 FPS, you actually have to dig into an INI file in order to change that. Now, a lot of the other stuff, that's horrible in its own right, but deliberately locking a game on a PC at 30 FPS is a cardinal sin, okay? It really is. There is no reason in this day and age, in 2015, there is no reason whatsoever for a PC game to be locked at 30 FPS. 60 FPS is the standard. It is, if you're running sub 60 FPS, then there is something not right about your game. There's really not. Also, in addition to these PC port issues, I was able to find out that there was actually no review codes for YouTube streamers and news press to be able to review the game prior to release, which is usually, not always, but quite often, an indication that there's something wrong with the game. So, there are just so many problems with this game. To be perfectly honest, folks, it's really hard for me to know where to begin. As I said before, my experience so far with this game is, yes, I've seen a few minor glitches, a little bit of pop-in, and some random frame rate drops, but nothing too bad. I'm not going to show too much into the game, just the initial portions of the game, because eventually it will come back out on PC. Yeah, eventually it will come back out on PC. I didn't want to spoil that too much, but this game has been pulled from PC sales, so you can't even purchase this game right now, whereas you would have been able to yesterday. But we'll go more into that in a little bit. What you saw there at the beginning was my PC performance test, which is extremely misleading. Extremely misleading. You notice in the upper left-hand corner the average performance specs of the PC performance test. It's showing an average of 59 frames per second, right? That's fine. That's perfectly fine. I would be totally happy with that. You go into the game, you're locked at 30 FPS, and yes, your gaming experience is very, very different than what you see in the PC benchmarking test in the game. So far, this has just been awful. Awful. And I'm not a big fan of the Batman Arkham series, but I wanted to buy Arkham Knight because I enjoy story-focused and story-driven games. Those are my bread and butter. Those are what I love the most in PC games. I'm very much Dragon Age, Mass Effect, and Witcher games. Those are my favorites. I love those. They're so in depth, so detailed with their characters and their storylines. I just eat it up. I really do. So I was looking into this because it was under the understanding that this will have a very interesting story arc with it. But what we got out of this product was very misleading, very horrible, and just extremely broken, which seems to be pretty much a common thing nowadays, and it really should not be. It really shouldn't. Video games broken on release. So it used to be game publishers would take their time with the game, and I recall seeing multiple times in the long ago, in the before time, where game releases were actually delayed by the developer so they could finish and properly test. And it was fantastic. And you know what? People go, oh man, I gotta wait a little longer. But in the end, you know what? They had a great time with it. They loved the game. And this day and age, no one loves a game on release anymore. Very rarely is a game released nowadays that is in a complete form, that has been properly tested, and is free of issues. However, that being said, this is by far and away one of the worst releases on PC I have ever seen. Probably the worst ever. I would buy into the hype and agree with that. Now, I did some looking. It turns out also that the spec system requirements on PC for Ultra mode, which was also based on keeping the game locked at 30 FPS, which again is a cardinal sin and should never be allowed. If you lock your game at 30 FPS, expect me to return it. Because, thank you, Steam, we have a little bit of buyer power brought back to us. We have that freedom. We have that capability. We have that protection again. So thank you, Steam. I love you for it. I'd kiss my monitor, but it's a little bit too far away. But getting back on track. So, Batman Arkham Knight. System requirements for Ultra at 30 frames per second. Windows 7 System Pack 1 or Windows 8.1 64-bit OS required. Processor for a 30 frame per second game. i7 3770 and AMD FX 8350 or an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 980 with 8 GB of PC RAM and 4 GB video RAM. Now, bear in mind, like I said, these specifications are for a game that is locked at 30 FPS. And with also a game where SLI is completely broken, where you actually increase your system performance with the game if you turn SLI off. This is horrible. This is horrible. This should never have been released in the state it was in. Ever. This is the kind of thing that will kill companies. It will. This will destroy consumer faith. Nobody will want to buy your crap-ass games. You'll never make any money, and you'll never be able to make any new games. That's just what's going to happen. So, continuing on. Now, we also found out through the grapevine, and I have been able to independently verify this, that the third-party company Iron Galaxy handled the PC ports. They actually do handle PC ports for all sorts of games. But Rocksteady subcontracted out the PC ports, and from looking in the options menus, there have been some telling things that makes people wonder whether or not this was ported from the PS4. And this port was completely mishandled. There are several glaring omissions from the options menus. Thankfully, it does at least have rebindable keys, but the remainder of the option menus are something that you would expect to see in a PC game 6 to 8 years ago. It's, to be perfectly honest, and it's a horrible, horrible thing. Now, to continue on, Warner Brothers tried to save a little bit of face by actually pulling Batman Arkham Knight from PC distributors everywhere completely, and have actually encouraged people to seek refunds on the game. Now, this is with the understanding that I'm not sure whether it will be Iron Galaxy or whether Rocksteady will take things back over, but they will be patching the game and will probably at some point down the road re-release it. Now, it is a good thing that Warner Brothers decided to do this, because they would have lost a lot more faith if they a lot more face if they had continued on and pressed on with this and just said, oh, we'll patch it later. But it also tells us something, that the bugs and problems with this game were so incredibly severe that they would not be able to patch this game in a timely fashion. And I've been reading a little bit more, and I found out that a lot of the problems seem to stem from PCs that are still running with mechanical drives, whether they're 5400 RPM, 7200 RPM, or the more rare 10,000 RPM mechanical drives. Those drives are not able to read and write fast enough for the game, apparently, on PC. And that seems to be where the vast majority of the issues are stemming from. And so that is probably one of the larger reasons why my experience with this game has been a lot more benign than most other people's, because I have a build that is invested well over $2,000 in, and it has, quite frankly, a heck of a lot more horsepower than your average PC gamer has. Most people would expect to spend between $900 and $1,200. This one's got a lot more meat on its bones. So, with Warner Brothers, and I'm actually, give me just a moment here. I'm going to pull up the press release that was released on Steam. Here we go. Uh, Dear Batman Arkham Knight PC owners, I'm just going to go ahead and read through this. This is from Gary Lake Shaw. We want to apologize to those of you who are experiencing performance issues with Batman Arkham Knight on PC. We take these issues very seriously and have therefore decided to suspend future game sales of the PC version while we work to address these issues to satisfy our quality standards. We greatly value our customers and know that while there are a significant amount of players who are enjoying the game on PC, yeah, not bloody likely, we want to do whatever we can to make the experience better for PC players overall. Basically, please don't run us out of business. We'll fix the game, we promise. Thank you to those players who have already given valuable feedback. We are continuously monitoring all threads posted in the official Batman Arkham Knight community and Steam forums, as well as any issues logged in with our customer support. If you purchased your copy of the game and are not satisfied with your experience, then we ask for your patience while these issues are resolved. If desired, you can request a refund, and they do actually post the Steam links to be able to get the game refunded. The Batman Arkham fans have continued. Yeah, that's basically fluff and filler at the end there. So I'm just going to ignore that because all it is trying to make you feel better about the company. It's like, hey guys, we're doing the right thing. Aren't we? Please don't hate us. Please like us. Please buy it again when it comes back out. Yeah, sorry. Too little too late. I refuse to reward any company that would allow a game to be released in a state such as this. I will actually be seeking a refund for my copy of the game, and I would actually encourage others of you to do so as well, as there is actually no known time frame currently on how long it will take them to patch this game and get it into a playable state. If ever all of the or maybe at least get all of the bugs worked out if they ever can. Bear in mind there have been previous Batman Arkham series releases where a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road still have bugs and have never been completely patched and probably never will. So basically, with them pulling this game from the shelves, they are telling us that this thing is so busted they will not be able to fix it for a while. So if you want to hold on to your Batman Arkham Knight game, it's going to be hanging out on your computer, broken as hell, for God knows how long before they release patches. So with that being said, please, if you're a fan of the Arkham Knight series, I would still urge you to pursue a refund and maybe purchase the game once it's been released again, once they have things stabilized, once they have things fixed, because damn it, you deserve better. You really do. Take your money you have right now, go out and buy a different game or a couple of different games that you would end up enjoying a lot more than this broken piece of tot. So, with that being said, once again, I am SidAlpha. Please remember to like, favorite, and subscribe, and don't forget to share with your friends. And I'll see you next time.